Welcome to Buckets. This is Action Network's basketball betting podcast presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Maria Marino. So excited to be back with Dano Mattia, analyst from Her Hoop Stats at Dr. Mattia on Twitter. Dano, what's going on?
It's good to be back this side of the coast. All-Star took a lot out of me, but seeing what Sabrina did in person was lit. I saw her in the tunnel before the event. I was like, I saw the script. It's happening. It's all yours.
Really?
And she was like, oh yeah, you saw it? I was like, hell yeah, go win that thing. I didn't expect that though. Jesus.
Hold on. You actually had words with her. She actually heard and comprehended what you said.
Yeah, and I mean,
wow.
I'll give you a story later about how I came up with this joke. I'm not putting that out there to spread to the masses, but it's great. And I mean, she was in amazing spirits the whole time. Her energy has been fantastic.
Teasing offline talk. I love it. So you are the secret maybe to Sab's incredible run at the 3-point contest. Although I'll give her the credit, but
yeah, I mean, I will say I did tell Joel Lloyd, like right after that event, they were coming in for practice. I was like, hey, MVP, what do we think? She's like, I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm serious. I was like, all right, well, I just need to start talking to players like more.
This is like the definition of manifesting.
I know, right?
Amazing. Lord. Wow. A little jealous that you saw all of that up close because I mean, I could not stop watching the highlights, but obviously glad to have you back. And we have one game on the slate tonight, Friday, July 21st. Liberty looking to bounce back, taking on the Mystics at 7 Eastern on Ion. Liberty are now favored by 9.5. When this line opened, I saw it at -9. It went down to 8.5. Now it's back up to 9.5. And look, we talked a little bit about this beforehand. I think we're on the same page here. I always look at the Liberty after not even just a loss, but just a bad game. Like even if they won and it was just a bad game, sloppy game where it was way too close for comfort, I always am looking at them in the following game. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Like the talent is there, the people that are on that team are such competitors. Like, I mean, Stewie, Sab, like Sloot, they just hate to lose. And on top of that, you have a Mystics team tonight that is just riddled with injuries. And you're, like I said, I believe on the same page where you're looking to potentially bet the Liberty tonight.
Yes, definitely. I'm looking at first half and full game. If I can find a closer line to where it is at 8.5, I'm taking that as well. Okay. And maybe a little half unit on the first quarter, just based on the trends that we've seen with this team after a loss. I think you've nailed it. There's a lot of like just pure professionals on this team. And the talent goes without saying. So it's easy to see how after a loss they come out and just smack teams. I think the lowest margin in the first quarter after a loss has been 9, averaging 21.5 points margin at each half of those losing games or games after loss. And so they're basically covering the full game spread at halftime. It's how playing pissed off they are, which is great because especially with this team, you want to see them get a huge lead because we've seen them blow a lot. But I love even in a loss, there's a lot of good things to take from that game on Wednesday against the Wings.
Right. And you were there in the building. Yeah. So I do want to get your take on the team overall and what you think they're struggling with. But before we do that, have you put in a bet yet for first half?
Yes. First half -4.5. Okay. I think that's at a variety of books. I played to 5, 5.5 even. Okay. And then full game, I mean, if it doesn't drop down to 8.5, I will bet 9.5. I think we've seen 2 games against the Mystics where Liberty haven't covered. It's time.
Good point. So just full disclosure, last night I did see the line at 8.5 and I did bet it, which I put in our action app where I I am selective with my bets that I make in general. But if you don't already, definitely follow me on the Action app, because when I do put a bet in there, it means that I actually have put time into it and do feel strongly about it. I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know, me putting that out there. But that being said, I went Libs -8.5. And, we talked about the record against the spread after a loss, because that's what I was thinking. I said, what's their record against the spread after loss? You hit me with the info right away. You said 4-0 ATS after a loss. I asked you for, okay, well, what were the spreads? What were the differentials? The spreads, you texted them to me. I'm going to rattle them off. Against the Fever, it was 16.5. At the Dream, -6.5. Mercury, -17. At Storm, -12.5. So 3 of the 4 were double-digit spreads. Also, 3 of the 4 were very bad teams. But that being said, I felt pretty good about that 8.5 number, given what you said. And, sometimes to make sure I'm not entirely, off the mark, I will confer with some of my Action Network colleagues. So I shot a note to Sean Kerner at the Oddsmaker on Twitter and the Action app. And I just said, hey, what did you have this line projected at? And he said 10.5. And he said that he's treating this Mystics team right now like one of the lower level teams because they have so many injuries. Because Shakira Austin is still out, Elena Deladon is still out, and Ariel Atkins is still out.
Yeah. I mean, and in that game, the last game at home against the Mystics, what Ariel Atkins was doing, I swear to God, she couldn't miss.
I know. She was playing great. She's having a great season.
Yeah. So, and then that was the game that Shakira got hurt too. Yeah. So, I mean,
yes,
it's a completely different team. And granted, the other players are stepping up in a big way. I think Brittany Sykes hit her points over like 4 games in a row until that last game against the Fever. Tiana Hawkins is playing great. It's just a good opportunity for the Liberty to get a momentum win going forward. I really want to see something out of Jonquel Jones. I'm probably one of her biggest haters, for sure.
At the moment.
Yeah. I mean, this is an MVP caliber player who, we're not getting that same ROI here in New York City. And like any other sport, I want to hold players to a high standard. And I think you can see it the way she's wearing it on her, in her energy overall. But we got Sab, we got Stewie, both have been playing great after losses. I think Sabrina, her lowest scoring output was like 9, but she almost had a triple-double. She's had 34, 20, and 20 in the last 3 games. She's on fire. So it should shape up to be a nice game. I think Sandy knows what she's doing against a team that she's seen twice before. Granted, it's a little different lineup, but this should bode well.
I agree. And I like what you said about this is almost kind of a revenge spot for the Liberty, because obviously their first game of the season, they go down to DC and get absolutely clobbered. And then, their second meeting at Barclays Center in Brooklyn, OT game, like a game that the Liberty, should have easily won. So I like that extra bit of motivation. Let's pivot a little bit now to just this Liberty team as a whole, because there's only one game on the slate tonight. I want to do a little bit of a futures check-in, and let's go back to what you were talking about with Jonquel Jones. You were in the building Wednesday, and to set the table a little bit, she came into this season with a stress fracture injury, or coming off that in the preseason. And you could tell right away, she just looks maybe a touch slow, maybe wasn't properly conditioned. So we were all kind of giving her, I think, a little bit of grace, and let's see like what happens when she sort of gets further into the season. And I think by now we were all expecting her to be in more of a rhythm than she is. And one issue that she's had all season long is foul trouble. And that's what happened on Wednesday against the Wings, which was a 10-point loss for the Liberty, their 5th on the season. And it just compounds. I think when you are not 100% conditioned or not in the best shape you can be in, that will lead to fouls, because you're like just a little bit slow and you end up being prone to fouls. And this team really misses Stephanie Dolson. I think. I
Yeah.
know that it might not seem that obvious, but to me, the drop off from Steph Dolson coming off the bench to Niara Sabali coming off the bench is a large drop off. And at times, Sabali does great things and shows flashes, but at times she still looks a little bit lost. So when you have somebody like JJ getting into foul trouble and she can't get in a rhythm and she can't score, then you have Sabali coming off the bench. And the other day, she had no points in 10
Six
minutes and
six
still managed to
fouls.
foul out.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
how is that possible?
I know.
And then
Just
I
getting
would
cardio.
yeah, so and I would say this about Dolson as well. There's a lot of issues right now, honestly. As I think, like to your point, Sab is playing great. Like, despite all the additions to this roster, she has still stood out as like a real like cornerstone here. But I think there are some holes defensively when you have Sab and Sloot in the backcourt. So what happens when that first line of defense, like you need that strong centerpiece. And again, with JJ prone to fouling and no Steph Dolson, it's like a double whammy. And then on top of that, I'm going on a tangent here, but Maureen Johannes, she is like my favorite player. I adore her.
Yeah.
I think she is
Same.
just so talented, so cool, so fun to watch. And it seems like she's lost a bit of confidence, and her and Steph Dolson are really close. And I feel like maybe having her out there with that second unit could be helpful for her.
Yeah.
And she just needs to get going. And so I don't know if it's that you talked about Sandy Brondello, like, does she need to is there still something that she's missing rotation wise that she has to figure out? Or is it really just Dolson gets back and things are a lot more like the way they envisioned?
Yeah, I think you hit so many incredible points there. I almost felt like lib therapy right here.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, we're talking about Marine, who is like normally like close to a 45% 3-point shooter, who's just been in the worst slump I've ever seen from her in the few years of watching. And I think the note about Dolson is just like that veteran leadership that is needed. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing for me. I don't see that team having a clear-cut leader on the court. I don't see the person is going to get a bucket when you need one, when a team is making an 8-0 run.
Yeah. Except for Stewie. And that puts a lot of pressure on her.
Yeah, and I honestly, in some of these games, she has not really been delivering. I think she started the fourth quarter with back-to-back turnovers in a crucial spot. I mean, like the Wings are a bad matchup.
Yeah.
I think the Liberty in their first win against them only won one quarter, which is crazy to me to think about. It's a crazy third. The first time they played, and then we won the second in this last game, but didn't win a single quarter after that. Just getting absolutely murdered on the boards. And that's the biggest thing for me with Jonquil is like,
yes, too
big, too strong, just put forth the effort, go get a rebound. Dallas is hard. I mean, they're the best rebounding team in the league, but so I would not want to see them in the playoffs. I'll put it that way.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about the only team that's actually beaten the Liberty and the Aces.
Yeah. So if say, odds are Liberty are going to get a second seed, just hope and pray that it's Connecticut or Washington in that third spot. You do not want to see Dallas.
Yeah. To your point, Arike, especially, she can just get hot. Like she could be streaky at times, but when she is on, like she is ridiculous. I mean, some of the moves the other day, if you have not watched this game, by the way, you need to go and watch the highlights of Arike, because they like her handles, the step backs. I was just like, oh my goodness, like she is on one. So
I was surprised that she only had 25. It was the loudest 25 I've ever seen.
Very flashy.
Stewie had the quietest 25 I've ever seen.
Oh, well, I feel like
classic.
Her part of her MO. She just does, she just does her business. But like, all right, so you brought up potential matchups playoff wise, if they're a 2 seed, the Liberty. I just want to bring this up. This might be a problem for me. Like this might just be something I need to go to therapy over, which is why I'm talking to you about it. But I doubled down on the Liberty this week because after they lost to the Wings, their future on FanDuel was at plus 330 to win a championship, which is the steepest it's been since this whole year. And I was like, you know what? Like
January.
I think that they're gonna win? No, but I'm like, okay, we got a little more value now. And so I went for it. So what do you make of that?
I think it's fine. I mean, if you're gonna take any team, it's really the Liberty and I guess the Wings at this point.
Yeah.
Wings probably match up better with Connecticut now. I mean, we haven't seen them play since Brianna Jones got hurt, so I think it's going to be interesting to see those two teams play. I mean, it's definitely the Aces in a huge gap between everybody else, but Liberty are right there up next. And crazy things happen in sports. You need talent and you need luck. And right now, Candace Parker is going to be out for a little while, I think Becky said. So, who knows if a player that it means more gets hurt, the value of that Liberty future goes up tremendously. Because all four of the Aces starting five, not including Kia Stokes. So, I'm talking Asia Wilson, Kelsey Plum, Chelsea Gray. Yeah. Kaki Young. Any one of those four go down, it's a completely different roster.
Good point. And it's so funny up to now, and maybe this is naive of me, but I'll give myself a little leeway because the Wings at the start of the season just looked so inconsistent, and I don't know if Latricia Trammell has just found something a little bit and they've gotten used to some things, but like I literally never dawned on me until this moment to maybe bet a future on the Wings. And they're at plus 4,200 on FanDuel right now.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet, but I mean, I even still, I think that's like almost an investment.
Yes.
Like no team has looked better. And I know people were like, oh, the Dream had a 7-game win streak. The Dream played nobody.
Right. Exactly.
The Wings have one thing other teams don't, and that's just like an abundance of size, from the bench to the starters, and all their bigs can shoot. And if you get an efficient Arike, I mean, she's a champion in college. We've seen what she's done there. She's built for the moment.
True.
The defense is looking a lot better. I mean, I think Sabrina had 17 in the first half against them earlier, and they made some adjustments, sent some hard hedges, and she only ended up with 20. Those are important things to notice that a coach is doing. And I don't like too many coaches in this league. I think a lot are probably way behind where Becky is, but LT has definitely impressed me a lot. So I don't hate a Wings future, and I'm through talking to you, I might go do it myself. So
wow. Okay. Well, that might be irresponsible, but that's okay. And look, just to be fair, I'm pretty sure you and I both were questioning LT earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Full disclosure.
Hand up. I think I put her on my little tears thing on Twitter saying, are we sure she's good?
Yeah, exactly. I remember seeing that tweet from you and thinking the same exact thing. All right. So before we go, let's touch on the Aces a little bit because something to keep an eye on, I think, futures wise, is something you pointed out to me, which was, recently their over under win total on the season was at 35.5. Keep an eye out on that because sometimes I see it available, sometimes I don't. And it's very interesting. They're at 20-2 right now, which is a win percentage of 909. The record, I'm gonna have a little trivia for you. Do you know who holds the record for the best win percentage in WNBA history?
Will that be the Houston Comets?
Yes. Do you know which year?
90. Oh, I mean, I was there.
I'll tell you.
Born and raised 96.
Close. 98. I mean,
Uh,
it's one of those, right? One of
I
those
was
teams in the
6 years
dynasty.
old. Yeah.
Right. Same. All right. So, but keep in mind, so their win percentage was 900, only 30 game season. So they were 27-3. So the Aces they could potentially beat that record, right? They could potentially get a higher win percentage in the longest season that we've seen in WNBA, which is 40 games. But to do it, I'm pretty sure they'd have to get to that 36 win. I don't think anyone even cares about this, and they're probably like, it's not something that they're probably striving for, but they would be 36-4 if they were to do that.
Yeah. I talked with Danielle Vardy about like this exact bet, because I mean, it's hard to fathom a team only losing 4 games over 40. But with, we're looking at one of the greatest teams of all time. If you dive into the statistics and the efficiency of what they've been able to do, the scoring output is outrageous. The defense is amazing.
Right.
But granted, they've had a, somewhat of an easy schedule. I don't think they sweep New York. I think New York gets at least one. So that's a loss, right there. Let's hope they're gonna figure something out there. But
circle the calendar, August 6th against the Liberty.
Yeah. And then they're gonna drop one to maybe a subpar team just on a day when they just don't have it. Every team does this. So I do think that you might be able to get 36.5 though after at least this month runs out. They're not losing a game the rest of this month. They got I guess they get the Wings at the end of the month at home, but up next they got Minnesota and Chicago. Those are 2 wins for sure. There's no way in hell they're losing those games. So the Dallas one could be interesting. Dallas will be, riding their hot streak in. They know they've beaten them before. They probably could have beaten them twice if Satu didn't get hurt at halftime. I'm really loving Dallas now.
Wow.
but Aces at home, they're going to be up for that game. It's a revenge spot. So I think they win. So I think I'd probably look to hopefully get 37.5 and take the under at that point. So probably at the end of July going into August. Their August schedule is much tougher. Liberty 3 times, tough. I think maybe Connecticut one more time. So we'll see.
All right. Yeah. So the action item there is to wait and see if they rack up a few more wins, and keep an eye on that win total and see if it fluctuates at all. They got 18 games left. So we'll see if they'll get a couple more losses. But Dano Mattia, man, this is like probably one of the longest pods I've done.
Love it.
Because one, I feel like we needed to catch up, and 2, it's just so fun basically bullshitting with you about anything and everything WNBA, and in particular Liberty, since I occasionally run into you at Barclays Center. But thank you for coming on Buckets.
Definitely. Oh, always. Anytime you need me, no matter where I am in the world, I'll make it happen.
You're the best. Well, listen, for those listening, we appreciate it. Buckets is presented by FanDuel. Make sure, if you haven't already, as I mentioned, download the award-winning Action app. Also, if you please, rate and review this podcast, 5 stars preferably. You could win Action swag or a free subscription to Action Pro. I'm Maria Marino. Until next time, let's get buckets.